We're recording this. We're not going to send it out into the world. It's just for your resource later. Okay, my name is Annie Winkler. I used to work at Real Pickles Cooperative down in Western Massachusetts. I love cooperatives with all of my soul. I also really love thinking about process and making sure we have containers to hold the decisions we're making. I have a lot of opinions. And if you have them too, I trust that you have thought about them and that they are coming from a great place. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I also really like to canoe, which is why that picture is there. Okay, slide 23, 20 today's. Our objectives today, we absolutely will clarify which decisions belong to governance versus operations. We will hopefully help you understand and draw your cooperative's governance structure if we have time. We might help you develop questions around the governance structure at your co-op. And we absolutely won't dig into how your co-op is incorporated affects its governance. If everything goes well, we will take one 10-minute break. The first chat thing I would like to ask you to do is please rate what co-op you are calling from today, or you joining from. Welcome, 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 friends. I am so excited that there are co-ops from all over the state who are here today. Awesome. Join me on slide 24. Here are the directions for our first interactive activity. Take a moment to find a slide on, rather a post-it on slides 25 or 26 and put your name on it. If you're Eliana and Jose and Nacho, está bien. Yeah, and write somebody's name on that post-it. And when you've got that, think about what decisions are made at your cooperative. And write down 3, 4, music. Cool. Okay. Awesome. It looks like many of you have written some things down. So join me on slide 27. We're not going to do anything about it yet. We will soon. When I think about decisions in co-ops, I tend to make this gesture a lot. And when I make this gesture, it's because I'm reminding myself that there's a division between operations and governance. So when we think about operations, those are the things that are happening right now. They might be things about how are we going to achieve our goals in a day-to-day way. It might be something about how are we going to administrate the benefits that we offer to everybody. And the one I find the most confusing in co-ops hiring and firing. Because if we're in charge of accepting new members in governance, but the operations side can fire somebody, how do we balance those powers? So that's an example of you could fire somebody, but you can't take away their membership on the operations side. But it's confusing because if they don't work there, can they be a member? So that's complicated. I'm not digging into that today. Okay, slide 28, this side. The governance scope are those big picture ideas. So like our vision for the business for the next 20 years, what we're going to do about climate change. if we're going to really change how our organization is structured. And the policies that are going to control how we do personnel decisions at our co-op. So now it's time for you to do a tiny bit more work. Go back to your Post-it. So this is slide 29. Go back to your Post-it and then highlight the decisions you wrote down. Put them in orange for operations and green for governance. And if you need help, ask. Go. I thought that might happen, Deb. Cool.
I'm just not getting my highlighters going, so.
That's okay. What colors do
I
you want
have
them to
one
be?
thing on it, that's it. That would be orange. And it's the new hires.
Hold on. Why not?
That's fine.
Con gusto. Okay. We're starting to get some ideas. This is Annie. Let's go all together to slide 25. Go ahead and take a look. These are all in English, so I'm wondering, could you, Ulum, do a little verbal translation of them? Yeah, it's just done. Great. So if you are Rhonda or Marina or Deb, and Deb, I changed one of your colors. I gotta turn off the music. This will be. Why did you make them the color that you did? Hit it.
I'm Deb. And the reason I did most of mine orange is because currently we are operating like kindergarten soccer or amoeba ball, where we're one big conglomerate with everything and there's no this. So that's why, yeah, that's why we're all one color.
Bueno. Marina, will you share with us?
Why I made them that color, I think at all company meetings, sorry, 1 second. At all company meetings, some things are presented to all members by the board, and so I made them green. And the one that I made orange is the one where I see small teams with non-full members being part of that decision.
Great. So you guys, this is Annie. Great. So you see that division that Deb is still working towards at PT 360.
Yeah.
Awesome. Rhonda, will you share about your thoughts?
Yes, so I am like the person who put something down below. I'm newer to this co-op idea, so I'm not even sure if I'm correct or not. I do know that our board is in charge of hiring and firing the executive director. So I thought that may be more of an operations. And then what I meant by governance structure when I put that there was, they make long range vision and goals and plans. And then they meaning the whole co-op, and then the whole co-op also votes in new members. That's why I put that green.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
Yeah. I would say that if there were a right answer, the hiring and firing of the executive director is the one thing that governance holds. Okay. Everybody else gets hired and fired operationally. And then there's some confusing things, as I mentioned, with what do we do about membership?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're not wrong. We're just doing some figuring stuff out together.
Okay.
Bueno. Vamos a 26. 26. my brain is broken. This is Annie. Okay. Heather, why?
Okay, so it's pretty, honestly, it's pretty straightforward to me at this point. The directors, we get together and we talk about these things, the benefits, what we're looking for the next year. Do we want to continue with the current benefits? Do we want to change them? What's our budget going to look like next year, this year? Do we want to tweak different items? Those are things that we talk about as directors, and then we take to the board and have the board approve or not. Something like purchasing building materials. Am I taking enough breaks? Sorry. Purchasing building materials is definitely more of an operational process for our company. We have the supervisors, we have the, different people making these decisions on a daily basis.
This is Annie. Thank you so much. All right, Eliana, Jose, Nacho. Did we lose them? Oh, no, they're there.
Estamos aquí. La
Bueno.
parte que tuvimos que usar, referirnos de nuevo a la diapositiva 28 para orientarnos en qué color usar, los beneficios, y pensábamos que cronograma de proyectos más o menos también, porque siempre son discutidas con todos los miembros del equipo, y la de inversiones le corresponde más como a los directivos, pero no estamos muy claros en eso. ¿Quieren decir algo más?
Sí, bueno, yo soy Nacho. Pienso igual, como hay algunas cosas que están como un poco fuera de nuestro alcance, por como la contratación aquí en nuestra empresa, hay como distintos grupos de trabajo y algunos de ellos es muy diferente a lo que hacemos nosotros. Y creo que eso es igual.
Yeah. This is Annie. I agree. All right. Maria and Ulum also put some words in here. There are translators. I'm not going to say that they have to talk right now, but they could if they wanted. Okay. All right. So, oh, I forgot. Sorry. I made a slide for us to figure out if the directions were clear, and I forgot to use it. This is Annie. Join me on slide 31 and 32. 32 is English. All right. So we've got this. And if this is governance, because it's my right hand, and I don't know why, but my right hand is always governance. I think of governance mainly living with the board and all worker owners. And it doesn't need to be this hierarchy, this stacked thing. Which is mainly why I pull them to the side. But in this picture they are, so okay. The board has worker owners, and sometimes it has outside members. And the worker owners that make up the board are always these people who are down here and doing the day-to-day work. I think probably all y'all already know that. When we get down into worker owners, some of them might be management in an operational sense. And some of them might not be management. And some of the people who work at the co-op might not even be worker owners at all. The basic thing, as you probably know, all workers have the opportunity to be owners, but not all workers have to be owners. The place I see this being complicated when we think all the people have to be worker owners, when we don't have good structures for the people who are not worker owners to have an impact. Or when we have like really long periods of time before someone can become a worker owner. Sometimes that's great, because you want them to really know the business well. But sometimes it means that they're like, but when do I get to have an impact? So think about it. So let's talk about who gets to decide what. Slide 33. The members, identity of the co-op, values of the co-op, membership policies. So they're in charge of electing that board, deciding if we're going to sell the business. Really big stuff. Some co-ops have new members be accepted by the board, and some co-ops have it be always accepted by all members. So that's why I didn't use that example. Most co-ops do all members except new members. We've already talked a little bit about how the managers do the day-to-day operations. So product mix, pricing, hiring and firing. And the board is this governance piece, right? And so they're in charge of, I mean, members are also governance, but they're in charge of policy, budget, strategic decision. The main reason I included this slide, that I already said all of these things, it is because these things all really work together and we need to understand how they're working together. All right, next slide. When we're thinking about the levels of decision-making, different groups can have different levels. And within the group, they can have decisions. So when I was on the personnel committee, there were some decisions that we could make independently. We could absolutely make forms about a policy that had already been passed. There were decisions we needed to seek input from generally the board in order to make. And then there were also decisions that we could make a proposal, but the other group, generally the board, was the one to approve it. An example on that would be when we decided to have health insurance. We made the proposal to the board, they put it in the budget, and we were able to do it. Something I see happening a lot in co-ops is that they'll make a subcommittee. Like personnel. And they won't tell the committee what powers they have. So when you're making your subcommittees, that is a hiring committee, or it's a personnel committee, or it's the worker ownership committee, the thing you need to think about is what powers are you delegating to them? Because otherwise they're powerless. Nobody wants that. We want power. And I don't mean like I'm power hungry, I want to control. I mean, we want to have action and we want to make things happen. So if you at your co-op are thinking about, oh, if we just had a subcommittee to do this thing, make sure you put some thoughts into what sorts of decisions they can make. Without coming back to the board every single time. Because if we all are gonna wordsmith every single policy, every single time we make a tiny, tiny change, we are also wasting our time. All right, so next slide. Oh, I left myself a note. So when we're thinking about who makes which decisions, there's different roles you can have. You can be the decider. You're the one who makes the final decision as a body or as an individual. You can be the ratifier, which means somebody else made a decision, but you have to approve it in order for it to happen. And you could be a person who provides input or a body. And I think the input provider is often the one that we don't use well. Because sometimes the input provider is like, they have to approve in order for it to work. But that shouldn't be it if the input provider isn't the decider. We need to seek their opinion. We need to get all of their input, but we don't need to do what they say is the right thing if the deciding body makes a different decision. That said, if you want buy-in, you want that person on board, right? Or that body, whether that's a person or a body. Okay. I'm pausing for questions, comments, snide remarks for those who prefer them.
I have a question.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah. So you can have people who do the input, the decider writes the proposal and says, yep, the final decision, I'm going to approve this program, whatever. And then the ratifier can say, nope, I'm vetoing it. We're not doing that.
Can you give me an actual example?
Like say your business decides that they're going to start a new program.
Okay.
But for us, say we're gonna start a fall prevention program.
And who does that currently belong to? That decision.
The decider, somebody comes to the decider
Okay,
and says, I would like to do this. So they work with the decider, they collaborate, they come up with a program. The
Mhm.
decider's like, I think that's a great idea. We're going to implement that.
uh-huh,
And then the ratifiers say, no, I don't think that's a great idea. I don't see that as revenue producing, and we're not going to do that. Is that how that works?
yes, and I think that I'm a little bit confused about which body is holding that thing right then. So if you're talking about, let's put it in PT 360's reality for a second. I don't know what our new program is, but it's going to be awesome. It's Dragon Boat. You're going to do the PT for my Dragon Boat team. Thank you.
Yep.
I need you. Which, you know, may be true, but side issue. And you're saying the objection is specifically around money? For the sake of argument?
Sure.
Ratifiers need to have all of the access to information that the deciders did, even though they're not deep in the deciding. So it's confusing to me why the deciders thought it would be revenue producing and the ratifiers don't. And I understand where you're coming from. What if there's a small group of people that are like, I don't want us to do that thing that you want to do.
Let me change it then to make it more general for a lot of companies.
Great, love it.
Okay, so more people can apply it. Again, Deb. So let's say it's a benefit instead, that an owner comes to me as the president and says, I would really like, I think we need a parental program.
Mhm.
You know, we have something for maternity leave. I think for the sake of equity and equality in our company, I would like to see a parental leave or part of it. So we go into an owner meeting. I say, I think that's a great idea. We get into an owner meeting and it's not anything like it's a benefit. And we get into a discussion where some owners, because we decide everything as an amoeba. So some owners are like, why am I going to approve this? Like, I'm never having kids again, and I'd rather money go towards my retirement. So you kind of get into this where it's a benefit, it's a cost to the company. So you have people that vote out other people.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So that's where it gets confusing.
Yeah, this is Annie. I think that specifically with personnel, we're going to dig into some of these things a little later. So thank you.
All right, good.
And specifically with personnel, generally the way that I go is that a new policy might be proposed by the operations side of the business. The board decides it, and the whole group doesn't ratify it. We're
Okay.
shifting our decision making.
Thank you.
So there is a smaller body doing all the work all the time. Because if everybody's always doing all the work, we're wasting our time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other great questions? Stack, Marina, you're up.
Hi, I had to quickly respond to a call, so I'm sorry if you already clarified this, but when you asked Deborah to give an example, I wonder if Annie, you could give us 2 examples of how the decider and the ratifier role look different, especially when it comes to power dynamic?
Yeah, happy to. The most interesting one for me at Real Pickles was always around the budget. And the way that we had that laid out at Real Pickles, we'll see later. But you guys are working ahead, thank you. Is that the operation side, the general manager made the proposal and made a bunch of decisions, but the board had to ratify the budget. So we never went to all owners about our budget. This is us. This is what we didn't want to do. Because we didn't want more things on their plates. And it was the decision we made together. So it worked for us. And for me, that proposal coming from the general manager and the finance manager and the production manager working together and the sales manager, like they all did all of their things to make a budget that we thought could work. And it has to be a budget that we think can work operationally. Otherwise, there's no point. And then the board, fortunately, it's a worker co-op. I should slow down. The board is made up of a lot of those people also. So we've done that work. And so we are able to really dig into, is this the right direction for us to go and to ratify it? And so that's the opportunity for the non-managerial people to engage in the process and ask pointed questions. And that's been really useful. So another thing where there's a decider, an input and a ratifier. That we never did while I was there, but it's on our matrix, so we can talk about it. Is if we wanted to move the business, the way that that would work is that the board is the final decider, because this is a big change to the business. But also we need all the worker owners on board. So that's an example, Deb, that you might be relating in your head to. That's where we need ratification from all of those worker owners. And we want to have input, of course, from the operational side of the business. And that person in that case is the general manager, but of course, all those people are involved. I think a lot of the time people are like, everybody needs to ratify all of the. If you're running a collective and you're not doing a lot of delegating, that's true. But if you're not running a collective and you do want to divide the labor so you can do more, really knowing who's got which ball makes the game more fun. Yeah, más divertido. Other questions before we take a little break? I want to give you a moment. These are good questions. Okay. At 1:41. We're coming back. Go get a drink. Do whatever you do. I'm also gonna walk away from my computer, so you won't be able to find me. All right. Fade this out. How's it? This is Annie. We're back. If your video is off, will you just type here or a key in the chat? Bueno. Join me on slide 37. This is Annie. All right, Deb, here's the slide you've been waiting for. When is it a decision for all members? Generally, we call this the significance test. Does it affect the likely survival of the co-op? Not, are we going to make an extra $20,000? But the survival. Does it have to do with policies for hiring or terminating co-op members? And this gets back to that one I was wrestling with at the very beginning. Does it affect the basic character of the cooperative? Those decisions, 100% belong to all the members. Great. Slide 38. This is Annie. This is the extensiveness test. So when does it belong to the board instead of just the management or the operational staff? Does it affect a large number of co-op members? Does it commit a substantial portion of financial or other resources of the organization? And does it affect the co-op operations, personnel, or resources over a long period of time? Then it belongs to the board. The challenge is, if you've been doing it one way, how do you shift it? And I'm not going to lie to you, that's a challenge. But if we can agree about these two tests, then that's a step in the right direction. And then we can make the decisions together. Yeah. Yeah. I'm causing trouble. But then I know when I'm supposed to stop talking. Do I need to change anything? Back to the English channel. Okay, bueno. No, it's fine. Okay, so thinking about, let's go to the next slide. We've got all these decisions, right, that we make over all of our co-op. It helps to break them into categories. What decisions are we making? So, mission, finance, personnel, corporate organization, operations. Hopefully that's enough categories for you. If you need more, let me know. I love operations because it holds things for me. This is slide 39 if you're trying to find me. Do those 5 categories feel like they hold everything that you guys need? I got a nod from Heather. More or less from Deb. At least that's how I interpreted that. So let's look at an example. Slide 40 has a very tiny, tiny governance matrix. And here's your pop quiz. Who elects the board? Put it in the chat. Who's the decider on electing the board? Deb won the race. Everybody good that it's the members? All right. Who do you think, or who at your co-op is the decider about allocating patronage? It might be different at different co-ops. I will explain. David says that he's unsure what that means. At the end of the year, if there's money, that is profit, and you're going to distribute it to the members. That is called an allocation. When you distribute that money, you can give it all out in cash. You can hold on to some of it and give members the ability to pay off their taxes with it. But which body, and I'm going to give you a hint, it is not the managers deciding about this. It might be a manager giving a proposal to a body that's going to decide, but it is not a manager who is making this decision, because it is money that belongs to the whole co-op. Yeah. So in my experience at Real Pickles, this was a board decision, and not an all member decision. And there are some co-ops that do it the other way, where the board might make a proposal to all members and they might make the decision, or the board makes the decision and the all members ratify. It might be different, and that's okay. What about changing the bylaws? Who gets to do that? This also might be different at different co-ops. Cool, don't know is a fine answer, Heather. So Deb says at PT 360, it's all members, totally fine. Do we know at New Frameworks? I'm just curious. No,
No,
none of, well, you're only one person, so I was looking at Nacho to see, you know.
could I just?
Yeah.
This is Heather talking. I haven't been here long enough to witness that, and there's been no talk of it, but it feels like it should be something that's decided by members.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes there might be bylaw changes that you want to make that are relatively small. And so having some rules about which bylaws always go to all members and which bylaws the board can fix is a good idea. I'm using the word bylaws. You might have an operating agreement. Vermont is fun. I'm lumping them all together. All right. What about, you want to give me a raise? Determining an individual pay raise. Who does that? I appreciate your typing, Deb. This is Annie. So management team, it looks like at New Frameworks would be operations, would be the management, great. With ratification from the board, awesome. It looks like at PT 360, they've got a distinction between if you're an owner or not, where that decision happens. That's okay. I think it could lead to some confusion. Don't know. We'll find out later. If you wanted to make a new policy about how we're going to pay people and what's happening, that definitely belongs over in at least the board category, if not all members, depending on how you divide things. All right, I'm not going to quiz you on the last one. Let's try to do this together. So I just accidentally said some words that maybe made you think you knew where we were going next, especially if you looked at slide 41, which you may not have done. Help me out with some high-level decisions that happen about personnel or some low-level decisions that happen about personnel. Let's make a little matrix that's just about our co-op. We're going to make this matrix on slide 42. I'm going to type words. You can type words also, but I'm going to type words. So don't type words. Sorry. In the chat, tell me a decision that we could have in our co-op that I just made about personnel. Yeah, simultaneous translation. Huh? Well, I guess I have a question. Eliana, is ratios about the max and min ratios? Okay, bueno.
Yes, like how do they increase in the year and the max and minimum
Okay.
per year?
I'm going to put it on 2 separate lines because it might be something we need to think about 2 different ways. Cool. Any other decisions we might make about personnel? I'm gonna put policies. Thank you. All right. We are a co-op. We are a tiny co-op, but we are mighty. Let's talk about the first one, hiring a new coworker. If you think that the decider should be members, put an M in the chat. If you think hiring a new coworker should be a board decision, put a B or a J in the chat. Oh, darn it, this doesn't work. I'm gonna change it. Then it'll work. Great. If you think that that decision about hiring a new coworker belongs to operations, put an O or a G in the chat. So we're talking about the decider, the body or the person who makes the decision about hiring a new coworker. Let's see what we think. Go. Good, thank you for that. All right, we think it's everybody, except for all members. And that's okay, we can disagree about this. At your co-op, if there's a new person being hired, they might become a worker owner. So that might be a reason why you want to get the board to have an opinion. But if the members are the ones who ultimately accept new members, that's their decision to accept the new member. So generally, hiring a new coworker belongs over on the operational side of things. Because all we're doing is we're hiring a new coworker. It's our job to make sure they do their job well. I'm a manager right now. Sorry, I'm a manager. It is my job to hire a new coworker, make sure they're doing their job well, so that when they've been around long enough, I can recommend them to the membership and I can say, this person is going to be great as a worker owner. And here's how we are holding each other accountable. Here are the ways that I've seen them grow over the last year or two. And now the members get to decide, do they want that person to be a member? Or the board, depending on how you do that. So I'm going to say, generally speaking, operations gets to decide about new coworkers, not new work, not a new owner, but new coworkers. Reasons why you think that's bad? Looks like Nacho's having some thoughts.
We were actually discussing some of the, you were explaining and how they work in our company.
Awesome. Totally fine.
But,
Totally fine. Okay. No, it's really okay. I should tell you, I used to teach a teenager named Ignacio, who went by Nacho, the smartest boy in the class. Okay. Let's talk about salary increases. So in my experience, I'll just tell you from Real Pickle's standpoint, when I was working there, we had a personnel committee that looked at how much money did we have lying around? And we were a subset of the board. We could have had non-worker owners on the personnel committee. but the board gave us the power to think about salary increases. So, according to me, there is a right answer about salary increases that are happening annually. What do you think? This is just my opinion. You can run your co-op any way you want. What do you guys think? Oh, yeah, please.
Bueno, yo pienso que igual como el salario debe de subir cada año, pero también pienso que se debe de considerar también la inflación de hoy en día o cada año, porque a veces tenemos como un límite de el mínimo del aumento o el máximo del aumento, pero a veces tenemos como un límite del 2 o el 8%, pero a veces ahorita subió el 8% de la inflación. Si tú subes el 8% al máximo, quiere decir que simplemente estás empatando tu sueldo. Y en esa decisión se podría tomar una decisión extraordinaria, les digo, como saber que podría subir un poquillo más del límite.
O sea, como subir el porcentaje de la inflación y aparte la política de la cooperativa del máximo o mínimo ratio de salario. Es lo que estábamos discutiendo, que era la idea de Nacho.
This is Annie. If we have enough money to do that, great. I have to admit that I was confused about time, and I want to respect your time. And that means we need to be done sooner than my brain got confused about, because this is 12:30 to 2, not 12:30 to 2:30. So I hope that a lot of what we were talking about today was helpful. If you want an example of a matrix that I've used that I found useful, it's on slide 43. If you're willing to give me feedback about all of the things you want me to do better, that's on slide 48. And the other thing I want to say is this is also the first time I've taught a long class that was translated. And I really appreciate you all coming. It takes a lot more time to do it in 2 languages than it does to do it in 1. All right, Eliana, I see that Nacho has questions, but I don't know why or what they are. You're good? Okay. My friends, go ahead and unmute yourselves. Say goodbye. You're great. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Annie.
Ciao.
Thank you, Annie.
Bye, thank you.
Bye,
Thank
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, yeah.